Okay, so in today's video, I wanted to give you all a follow-up in regards to the do-it-yourself mold test. Several months ago, I made a video in regards to this testing unit, which I picked up at Lowe's. Weren't a lot of videos on there, wasn't familiar with the process, but if you guys can recall, you have to let this thing set out for about 24, I think 48 hours, something like that, within a specified area of your home. You have to put it in the, you have to put all the solutions and whatnot inside the bag, or actually on the filament that they give you. And then, of course, you have to put it inside the plastic bag. And then, of course, what I did was also tape it up. The instructions weren't too clear cut, but some of you had asked me, did I send this off for testing? And so today's video, I definitely want to go ahead and answer that question for you. Had a few comments based upon the last video, just saying, hi, Angelica and TJ Adventures. Just wondering if you sent these tests in and what the recommendations were. I've had a lot of health problems since I moved into my new place since November. Just want answers. I ordered 3 tests. One of my responses at that time was, no, it's a waste of time and money. It doesn't hold up in court. I mean, if you want to send it in because you're curious and want to know what you got for it, then yeah, that is another definite answer. My other recommendation to this individual was you will need an environmental test, which I'll get to a little bit later in this video. I'll make a video on it. Those are accurate and hold up in court, etc., etc. I mean, this test will and can give you a result, but the environmental test costs around $600 if that's what you want. Michael Osborne, yes, I'm aware I'll need the expensive test, but I want to know, my landlord seems to be withholding information. I already had a biopsy on my lungs and they came back with mold. The home test kits will hopefully force him to pay for the test. He knows I've been sick. Okay, so what exactly is the procedure? The home test kits that you can get at Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, things of that nature, those are fine if you're curious to know what's inside your house. Even if you send it to the testing place, which is recommended inside the box, my first answer is yes, it's a waste of money. However, you guys can do whatever you want. Reason why I believe that it's a waste of money is because nobody is supervising you and you don't have any documentation for any of this to hold up in court if this is something you want to bring to your landlord's attention and say, hi, I have mold in my house. Secondly, the other process is, in order for this to hold up in court, if you want your landlord to be legally responsible for something, you have to get something done called an environmental test. Now, those start at about $600, and what the environment test does is somebody who's specialized, who has a license, comes out to your house. They do samples. They collect quality air samples. I believe in some cases they may do a swab and then use a cellular thing like you guys see here in the video. But what they do is they measure the level of microtoxins or mold in the air quality in the house. As far as the mold test, yeah, it shows it's something there, but with these videos, they give you these swabs and they tell you to put it on the plate. They don't measure any of that stuff. They measure the air quality in the house, the microtoxins which are in the air. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with what microtoxins are, I've done like 2.5 to 3 months worth of study after this situation. So essentially, that's what you breathe in. It's like microtoxins. Long story short, because I could go on and on about this all day, is that's what the defense mechanism of mold puts out. So mold technically and legally doesn't make you sick. In fact, there is mold outside all the time. You can go out around you. The plant life, that all has mold. But what makes you sick is the microtoxins, which is the defense mechanism of the mold. And so if that's disturbed, touched, or brushed, then that could get in your lungs, that could get in your bloodstream, and that's what makes you sick. In order to test for mold in your body, you have to get, well, actually, I'm sorry, not mold. In order to, actually find out if you've been exposed, you have to get something done called a microtoxin test. Now, your body still can be susceptible to mold. In fact, I can go on and on all day as far as all the symptoms that are involving mold or slash microtoxins, but you need to go have a microtoxin test done, and that is something no doctor can prescribe for you. I think the microtoxin test costs about $700 or $800. And if you go to your doctor, they'll just tell you got the common cold, flu, COVID, maybe you got respiratory issue. They can't diagnose it because they don't actually have anything else. But they can say, hey, maybe you have mold in your house, because it causes an abundant amount of issues, health-related issues, makes you drowsy, makes you sick, gives you headaches, dizziness, high blood pressure. You'd be surprised. The list goes on rashes, eczema, when you get skin rashes, things like that. The list goes on and on. I mean, like I said, I could go on and on all day as far as mold. So in regards to this specific test, personally, I don't believe any of this really holds up in court. I've talked to a few lawyers. They said it may, in some cases, it is good to have because it is evidence of something. Don't get me wrong. But look at it from the other side. How is this going to hold up in court if nobody knows what house you were in? So, for example, yeah, my video is honest. Yeah, I did the test in my house. But how do you know I physically lived there? I could have been at a friend's house, cousin's house, neighbor's house, been in a public place. You really have no idea where the test was taken. So if you send this off to a professional, well, and you try to get this held up in court, and you want to try to persuade your landlord to take action, nobody's going to verify or know you were in your house or in a specific area of your house doing this test. And so for me, that makes perfectly sense. And that's why I said sending this off to a company to actually test this, waste of money and a waste of time, because how's it going to hold up in court if nobody can verify if you were there? Secondly, you're not licensed to do anything. However, if you have an environmental test done, those people are certified by your local state. It is a third-party individual. They come out, they test different areas, they do air samples. So yeah, something like that will hold up in court. Now you have two options to do the environmental test. One, you can pay for it on your own. If you do find out, at least within the state of California, that you do have mold in your house based upon that environmental test, you don't have to pay rent. I know some people will say, yeah, you still got to pay rent, blah, blah, blah. No, you do not. They have to rectify the issue before you do anything. Secondly, the landlord has to pay for it. And if the landlord pays for it, they are not legally obligated to give you those results. Now, it's good if they do, but legally they are not obligated to give you those results. And environmental tests, they start out at $600 and they go way up from there. If you are going to get an environmental test done, you want to make sure that they're examining the majority of the rooms of your house. Make sure that they're doing air samples. It's an air quality test. They may take a few samples, as far as swabs and whatnot, but they monitor the air quality in the house. That is the most vital aspect. Secondly, you want to make sure that they are examining the heater, the air ducts, and the air conditioning unit, because a lot of microbes and microtoxins will be caught around there. So as you can see, this is why I said this kind of test in most cases is pretty much pointless to send it off to another organization. Now, there is another company I am familiar with. I will pull it up here so you guys could see it. There's another company called the Mold Law Group. And in my opinion, again, with this particular company, they are a complete waste of time. They are a sham, and they are very misleading. They will pretty much give you the same type of thing. It's called the Mold Law Group. It looks like a law firm. They are not a law firm whatsoever. So they are a company that will sell you additional services, tell you need X, Y, and Z in multiple steps in order to get mold rectified, or that they consult with law agencies and whatnot. What they do is they take your money. They send you a sample kit very similar to what you would get at Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever. They charge you, I believe they charge you in so many different terms. And I even talked to this company. I had to get they wouldn't issue a refund like even 30 minutes after I got off the phone with them. So we had to file fraud on the credit card or whatever, because what they said was misleading. I was looking for a organization that would come out, do testing, and also do some other representations. But that's not what they offered. And so they send you a test kit, which is very similar what you get at Lowe's and Home Depot, and then you have to send it off to one of their testing services. And then there's 3 or 4 different scenarios, and then they try to find a lawyer or provide documentation for a lawyer to take your case. It is very difficult and very challenging to find a lawyer who will deal with mold. Very challenging. I'll tell you this, it would typically take you about a good 2 or 3 months. And your standard personal injury attorney, let's say if you had a car accident, you would probably have an attorney to take your case 10 seconds after your car accident. With mold, no, it takes several months. You have to do your homework, and not everybody handles it. That's another issue I won't get into today. So avoid companies like that. There are many law groups or entities out there that will sell you a kit. Now, why is that very important? Why would you want to avoid a company like that? Again, sending you a test and having you do samples. Number one, you don't want to disturb any mold in the house because, again, it's not the mold that makes you sick. It's the defense mechanism of the mold called microtoxins, which is what you don't want to bother with. You don't want to touch any of that stuff yourself. And again, if you have a kit and you're asking if it's going to hold up in court, well, who verified that test? Again, were you at your cousin's house, your mom's house, dad's house, brothers, wherever? Were you in public? Like, where were you where this test was done? Again, you're not licensed, and there's no video evidence that proves that you knew what you were doing and whatever it is. And secondly, you don't want to disturb, rub, or do anything with the mold. Now, again, I'm not a law expert, but I can tell you I am battle tested. I've seen a lot of videos out there, and I am speaking from a firsthand experience that none of that, all that stuff is useless. There are all these companies and entities, and some of these things are set up to just take your money. That's pretty much what they are. But again, if you want to find out if you have mold in your house, you need to have a environmental test done. They come out, takes maybe about 45 minutes, maybe to an hour. They take photos. Everything's documented. I mean, everything is, it's like an inspection. When you're selling a house, they do an inspection. And then, of course, they send the recommendations over to the owner, to the landlord, saying, hey, you got to cut out this. You have to use drywall. You have to put a plastic bedding or whatever around that particular area if you're going to work. And then that's pretty much what they do. It's very legal. It is very thorough. It is signed. It is approved by about 2 or 3 different people. It is official. And that is something that your landlord or owner has to act on. Now, if you're not getting anywhere with your landlord or the owner, what you need to do is call your state agency, the Department of Health. What they will do is give them about 30 days to respond, and they'll send them a citation and issue a visitation rights. Now, typically, if you do this, your owner or landlord may try to retaliate. But keep in mind, and what I mean by retaliation, they'll probably try to send you a 3-day notice. Screw that, they can't do that. Well, I mean, they can send you the 3-day notice, but they can't evict you for anything like that. And you don't have to pay rent until they get this issue fixed. However, there is a caveat to that. Is if your mold report comes back inhabitable or the air quality is above safety or health standards, they have to move you out. I believe every landlord situation, wherever the case might be, and obviously some of this will apply to your workplace. That's a different scenario. But if you're in an environment where there is mold, and it comes back positive, they have to get you out of there. It is very serious, and in my opinion, if a landlord or owner does not act upon your mold situation, they need to be arrested, because it is pretty much attempted murder. There are stories and there are court cases where babies and people have died as a result of mold or aka microtoxins. It is very possible. It is a very serious health issue, and it affects a lot of people, and everybody responds differently. The other part is your landlord does have to move you. They cannot have you stay there. Now, you can try to fight them tooth or nail if you want to stay there 1 month, 2 months, whatever. But if you're trying to pursue this legally, you need to get out of there as soon as possible, because it doesn't make your case much stronger if you are trying to stay there for 6 months after you found out 8, 9 months a year. You know, it shows that, oh yeah, you knew that there was mold in the house when you actually physically knew that you had mold in the house. But it doesn't make your case stronger. It makes it weaker in that particular case if you find out that you have mold and you're trying to fight the scenario. However, because if you do call your state or the California state of, or if you're in California, Florida, Texas, whatever, and you call the Department of Health, it takes them many months. They are handcuffed in a way in order to act. So what they'll do is they'll send them a notice, an assessment telling them that they need to fix the issue. Again, they'll send that to your landlord or to your owner. And then after that, if they don't act, I believe it takes maybe 3 to 6 months for them to file with the district attorney. And then, of course, that goes from there. So before anything gets rectified. Now, pretty much you would want to do something like that just to have a paper trail. I would not rely on them to do anything. However, if you do move out of the house, they cannot move forward, and which is why a lot of places where you may move into may already have mold, but maybe nobody took any action on it. Maybe the state health department didn't take any action, is because they can only file cases and keep a case open on people currently staying in the house. So if you stay there for 5 years and you want to fight this out with your landlord or whatever the case might be, then yeah, they can act. But how long is that going to take? And then you still have the detriment to your health. I don't personally think that would be the best option. Your best option is to hurry up, move out, pursue it legally, and then do something about it there. Now, one other recommendation that I do have for everyone is that there is a 2-year statute of limitation from finding or filing claim or filing a lawsuit against having mold. If you want to take your landlord, your tenant, business owner, whatever the case might be, to court, 2-year statute of limitation from the moment that you have mold. So if you move in a place and you say, oh, I knew I had mold 5 years ago, whatever the case might be, you may still be able to file a claim. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but if you know that you had a claim, and then that way, at the time that you knew that you had either mold or mycotoxins in your house, legally you only have 2 years. So it's okay to use wording such as, oh, we saw wet spots, or we saw some black stuff that looked like dirt and maybe making you sick. But if you're able to somehow identify it, recognize that it is mold and that you did have mycotoxins, then that could potentially ruin your case. Now, again, you're not a professional if you're watching this video, but again, I'm just letting you know, be careful of some of the wording. Most people could probably look at black stuff in the house and say, hey, I think I have mold in the house. That's pretty much okay. That's pretty much fine. However, again, you're not an expert, but if you are an expert and you're like, yeah, I knew I had mold, or there was some type of indication that you knew, and you communicated that to your landlord 5 years ago, 10 years ago, how long it be, that could severely damage your case. So the best wording to use is, hey, I had dark stuff, black stuff, or I might have something in the house, or I may have mold. But most times if you guys are looking for a lawyer, they understand, because you may use that kind of wording, but legally you don't really know, because you're not an expert to understand those kind of things. But for the most part, in regards to this video and using the DIY mold test, I hope you guys found this information helpful. Those are just my thoughts and belief on this, and why I believe that using a DIY mold test, sending it off to somebody, is totally useless in some regard from a legal standpoint, is because you're not an expert and nobody verified where you were in the house, if you were at your house, and just how legitimate they are. You're not certified to represent, actually test what types of things are there. Now, I will say this, is that it is a starting point. It is helpful to know, like, if you got a bunch of black stuff appearing in these mold tests, then maybe you want to take it to the next level and maybe get an environmental test. I would actually recommend that. If you want to get one of these environmental tests and then use that as another stepping point to get an actual environmental test, then yeah, that's a good source to use. But please keep in mind, environmental tests are very, very expensive, and if you pay $600 or $700 for a test, that's the starting point. It goes up from there. and at that point they're only checking out a couple of rooms, they're not doing a full thorough walkthrough, then if it comes back positive, yeah, you don't have to pay rent until you have to send a letter to your landlord saying, hey, we found out we had microtoxins in the house, or the air quality is uninhabitable. What are you going to do for me? Now, in some cases, and this is just my personal belief, I don't know how homeowners get away with this, or landlords, is it is a breach of contract, and they can be sued for that if they don't move you or remedy the issue. And another situation is most homeowners and landlords will try to go through their insurance company. And if they are totally strapped for funds and they don't have capital, that's another problem. Because if there is damages in the house, and let's say they find out it was due to negligence, the insurance company doesn't have to cover it, and they won't cover it. So in my mind, based upon the estimation of things that I've seen, a homeowner or a landlord needs to have at least $15,000 to $30,000 cash in hand at all times to remedy a mold or restoration issue. Because if they find out, the insurance company denies it. Remember when you guys signed that claim or that landlord-tenant agreement that they will move you if there's an issue in the house due to some type of water damage or whatever the case might be, they're mentally thinking, oh, the insurance company is going to cover it. Now, regardless if the insurance company doesn't cover it, they're still responsible for you because you're a tenant. So if they do not have $15,000 to $30,000 on hand to hire a restoration company, they're going to be very screwed, and you're really going to have to jump on getting an attorney or someone for legal litigation because that's still their responsibility. And whether or not the insurance company wants to cover it or not, you're still their responsibility, and they have to take care of it. That's why this mold issue is very serious. It has serious complications. Some of the stories that I've read and the videos that I've seen, I saw somebody was awarded, I think, anywhere between $1 to $3 million because their kid died years ago. Another guy lost his lung. This one lady, all her hair fell out. And these are actual cases. Some of these videos you can look up. Some of these things you can read on your own. But again, it's really the microtoxins. It stays in your system for a number of years, and it's a very serious condition. In fact, you could lose your voice. I don't know. Like I said, the list goes on and on. So again, I don't want to make this video too long. Maybe I should do another one if you guys are interested on some of the causes and effects of mold and how it can affect your body and things of that nature. Maybe some of the other things you can do as a tenant if you have mold. Then yeah, I probably could do a video on that. But for the most part, those are my thoughts and whatnot on the home mold DIY kit that you can pick up at the store. I personally don't believe that they will hold up in court because there's nowhere verifying where the test was done, and you also have to be aware of all the potential scams that are out there. But again, if you want to send the test out as a first step to even see possibly if there is some type of air quality thing, it is the cheapest form to find out if there is something. But you're really not going to know anything until you get an environmental test done. And what they do again is they come in your home, they do an air quality sample, they go outside, they measure the air quality sample from inside compared to outside, and we'll see what's there. I think usually the levels are somewhere between 300, 700 or whatever, but if you have anything over 1,000 and 2,000, you definitely need to get the heck up out of that house. But those are my thoughts in the subject matter. Like and subscribe. I will catch you guys later, and peace out. You guys all have a great day. Bye-bye.